Good morning, everybody. Tara here with the Wifey Wake Up Podcast. It is a beautiful sunny morning here in rural Minnesota. Hope it's a beautiful day where you're at. We still have the sun kind of shifting its way in that easterly window, so got some little rays of sunshine here peeking through. Well, good morning. I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend, and I have a very special topic for you today. Because it's something that's really, well, all of these, everything at the Wifey Wake Up Podcast and at Wifey School is me speaking from my nearly 24 years of marriage. My husband and I have been together for 24 years, and here in a month or so, it'll be 24 years of successful marriage. And so all of these, I really strive to make that everything that I talk about is from experience, is from personal knowledge, and not just speculation, hearsay, and so forth. So this one is near and dear to my heart because, well, I'll just say it. Okay. From boss babe to wifey, how shifting priorities can lead to a happier marriage. And why is it near and dear to my heart? Because I grew up in the generation, I'm right in that sweet spot in a way between Gen Xers and millennials. So I'm the very earliest of millennials. I can understand that realm. And also the Gen Xers. And we were, the girls of my generation were absolutely brought up to be the strong, independent woman. And so, that's really synonymous in a way with boss babe. And I think it's nature and nurture. So if you're already kind of geared in that direction where you're, naturally more motivated, upwardly mobile person, and then you're in that environment that encourages you to be that strong, independent woman, it's going to emphasize that even more. And so that's why it's near and dear to me, because it really hits home for me. And as I was hearing the criticism of Boss Babe about boss babes, I was like, I wonder, particularly if I were single these days, would that hit home even more? So anyways, for those, just to clarify, I like to work off definitions because otherwise, who knows what we're even talking about, right? So when I looked up boss babe, I think it's kind of in the zeitgeist, right? We know kind of what it means, but let's just create or decide on a definition. So when I looked it up, it's interesting. Now AI will come in your Google search and will even collate a definition. So according to AI generated overview, a boss babe is a woman who is successful in business and life and is in charge of her own life. The term is often used to describe women who are ambitious and in positions of power. It's interesting that even that AI generated definition posed also how within the women's community, it also is frowned upon, but in a way like being ableist and just, being like too much, right? And I think that happens so often in the women's community is like, you need to be, be pretty, be able, be capable, but not too much. Anyways, that's a whole nother tangent. Okay. And then according to a site called Self Guru, the term boss babe originated in the first place from female entrepreneurs who wanted to empower themselves and other women. It was created as a term that could be used to describe any woman who is confident, ambitious, successful in her career or business, and in charge of her own circumstances. So now, along with this, since it's in the title, I'd also like to define wifey, which is how I would define wifey. And wifey doesn't just simply mean to be a wife. To me, it's an addearing term or an endearing term. It means a wife who is adored and is considered and central to every major and even minor decision by her husband, that her husband makes for the family. And it's not that he is like feeling obligated, like, oh, I have to bring my wife into this decision. It's because he loves and adores her so much that he doesn't even consider not considering her, but he's also considering the well-being of the whole family. And so that's why I think wifey is even more special than wife. So what I want to point out, so we're talking about boss babe, can boss babe and wifey coexist? And I think one challenge is that when you get married, that's when the two become one. And if you noticed in both of these definitions of boss babe, they had a certain aspect of autonomy, right? And independence. One of them says, and is in charge of her own life. And the other definition includes, in charge of her own circumstances. Now, that implies self-reliance, right? Being the strong, independent woman. And when you become married, the two become one. And so you're no longer that singular person, that independent person. You become interdependent. And so I'm going to try not to go on too many tangents here because there's so many directions we can go, but I'm going to stay focused. So to begin with, to be focused on being in charge of her own life or in charge of her own circumstances, this simply does not align with marriage. In these definitions, her life is centered around her. And if the boss babe marries, she needs to create a new definition for herself. And I think what typically happens in conversations like these is the question will be proposed, well, what about a man who gets married? Is he all of a sudden shifting his priorities? And I would say the answer is yes. A high-functioning man, a quality man, outwardly will still be pursuing his goals and his dreams and his ambitions, but it's furthermore in order to support his wife and future family. And so it's very much in alignment with what the man, hopefully, right, a quality man is already doing. He's already has his goals set out before him. He's already pursuing them. He's already on the path. But being married actually just fuels that even more, and with the responsibility on his shoulders. Whereas if you look at I'm going by definitions, and hang with me, ladies, if this is getting under your skin a bit, hang with me here. That for men, a quality man, it automatically shifts to what he's currently doing was perhaps for himself, putting all the toys in the bachelor pad, maybe the motorcycle in the living room, and he shifts to creating that home and the family for the family. In the definition of the boss babe, it is very self-centered. And again, just going off of the definitions. So like I said from the beginning, these podcasts, Wifey School, Wifey Wake Up, is all from experience. So I would say I am a semi-boss babe. And let me kind of define that for you. So I run my own business. However, to be very clear, my husband helps a lot in the sense that he's like a consulting CEO or even a part-time CEO. And I'm the president. I'm running things day by day. And just to give a scope as well, just kind of define this even more, I am the firstborn child. My husband and I both are, actually. We're quite unusual in that sense. Just as a side note, I think that we work because he's 12 years older than me. And so there's kind of, if he was a lot closer in age, I think that it would be really difficult. The two firstborns are together because, of course, the firstborn knows how everything should be done, right? And are naturally more bossy because you're usually looking after your younger siblings, and you just acclimate that way, right? So like most firstborns, I think I know what is the right thing to do. And if I don't, I can figure it out. And I've done things like I've traveled abroad alone since a very young age. Not like backpacking through Europe and all that kind of stuff, but even just at the age of 12, for example, I traveled alone to Japan to visit my uncle for a month. I lived abroad in Brazil for a year. Now, not totally alone. I wasn't traveling alone, but just those kinds of adventures, right? And so, already pretty self-confident as a teenager. In business, I've gone through a tax audit, fighting over tens of thousands of dollars with 2 tax agents, and it was me. We had an accountant there, but he was not the accountant that did the taxes. I actually did the taxes, and came away only paying 10% of what they were trying to come after us for. And again, that was tens of thousands of dollars, me against 2 tax agents. Now, I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just pointing this out that for the context, right, of the story. Currently, I manage 3 full-time contractors and over 20 part-time contractors in my business. And there's a lot more to give you the picture, but I just kind of wanted to give you a brief overview that I'm not running some small shop business here. There are a number of things that are major that are going on. But what I've learned through it all too is that my husband's help has been integral. And I think that's been really helpful, is that it hasn't been me learning from some man or woman guru. We've built businesses together. We currently work both of our businesses together. We're each involved in each other's businesses, and it's actually very helpful. And so I want to emphasize that when I started running my own businesses, starting out, it was with the intention of, I want to have control of my own finances. I want to have control of my own life. Now, mind you, I was already married. And I can tell you with full confidence, full experience, that when I was in that mindset, setting out or running business, or even dabbling every once in a while and helping my husband in business, it created more stress and havoc in our relationship. And in hindsight, I can see that's because I was working at odds. I wasn't working to be a part of supporting our family. I was working for me. And that is very, very different. And so this is what I want to point out. Again, I'm saying that I'm kind of the semi-boss babe. But here's the main difference. Today, I run my business, number one, in service to God. So it is fulfilling God's will for me. Number two, I do it to help support the family. And number three, it's for financial freedom. So number two obviously involves my husband, and number three as well. And those are the more business aspects, but it's getting things in proper order. Again, when I put it in the order of first, being in charge of my own life, my own future, my own financial freedom, that created strife in our relationship. First in me, and whether I said it directly to my husband like that or not, he felt it, he sensed it. My actions were not in union with his. It was more to be separate, right? To be in charge of myself and to be independent. When he was striving in his business to provide for us, it wasn't for him to be independent and be separate from me. He was doing it for us. And that's the important difference that I want to point out, is just that. And I'm going to get back around to that. Two, what is different about being, me, I'll say, as being a semi-boss babe, is my business is what it is today, and I'm capable of what I am capable of today, largely because of him. He has always been super supportive, offering guidance and help, time, and really being there for me to be able to develop and become the person that I am, able to do these things, particularly in business. And it does help me in other ways of life. And so I think that's actually a real benefit, in that, I continue to look up to him. I don't look up to a business mentor, guru, man or woman. I continue to look up to him, and it further helps unite us on our path. And three, I work from home, and my husband also has a business from home. And so we're often running into each other, literally and figuratively, talking to each other, consulting with him. And so what I'm also often doing, and even we're in each other's meetings as well. And so we have to volley back and forth between being bosses in our own business. There's a hierarchy within my business when he comes into a meeting, and also then in off times being wifey, and being able to shift back and forth. And I think the benefit, that can be really challenging going back and forth, but the benefit of working from home, I think it obviously is much more convenient. I'm not stressed because I'm driving so many hours a day, but it keeps me at least home oriented. We do see each other often throughout the day. And I think it keeps the focus on home, that even when I'm putting in 8 hours straight at the computer, and I mean straight, I'm not just saying, oh, I put in an 8-hour day. I mean, like 8 hours straight, and many times more. But it keeps it focused on us, on our family, on our marriage, on our unity, rather than being at different locations and focusing on different projects. And so I understand what I'm saying, ladies. If you've hung with me here, I hope you have, because I understand what it's like growing up in the generation where, first of all, you're told, be that strong, independent woman. Thank you very much. Be that strong, independent woman. So it's already being ingrained in you. And then also it's in your nature, right? There are women like me out there who are ambitious, right? You want to do something, you want to contribute something in this world, and do something, be a benefit. And I think there's a way, and I think I've found the way to blend the two, that you can still be a wife, you can still be a wonderful wife and wifey, and still fulfill that inner calling, and also have that conversation with yourself of, is that inner programming that I was raised with, my generation and younger is definitely trained to be that strong, independent woman, is how can I shift that within my marriage? Because I want to be married. I want to have a wonderful husband. I want to be adored. And I want him to feel fulfilled in the relationship as well. And it's not unreasonable for a man to want to be loved in the way that he wants to be loved too, that he's given attention, that gets your attention at the end of the day. And if you're working outside the home, especially if you have a career or business, now a job can be just enough, right? You're spending how many hours a day outside the home. You're tired by the time you get home, especially if you have kids. I mean, I know just even from my own business, it's on my mind a lot. It's on my mind so much. And I have to deliberately turn off that side of me. And it's even harder sometimes because my husband and I are in business together. And I want to ask him questions and we want to talk about it and we're both into it. But I really have to strive to turn that off and turn my thought and attention to him. And what is really challenging is if you are pursuing that career outside of your home, if you're pursuing that business that's primarily outside of your home, and it's especially if it's with the intention of being autonomous, of being not just having agency, but having independence, you're automatically severing your relationship. And even if you're not married yet, really consider, if you're having a hard time dating and a hard time locking down that guy, consider the energy that you're putting out because of that. And how might you shift that in order to be in a loving, mutually supportive relationship? Because guys for generations have been the one pursuing the career, supporting the family. And I know what it's like to live in this modern world where A, you were taught to be that strong, independent woman. B, you may be very ambitious and want to contribute something of significance, but you also want to have a wonderful relationship in the family life. As my mother-in-law says, when I say sometimes, and I'm just like, we don't have kids at home anymore, but when I'm like, I just don't know how women do it, if they have a career or even a job and, have all housework, because granted, a lot of the inside housework does come down to the woman, especially if you're ambitious, you're just getting it done. And she says, well, something's got to give. And sadly, what happens is, the kids give up some, the relationship gives up a lot. There isn't that time, energy, effort that you can put into the relationship. And, either one thing gives a lot or everything gives enough. And it all just kind of is heavy, and resentment builds, exhaustion builds, fatigue builds. And I think that is the root to a lot of divorces, is that people are just spread too thin. And so for those of you who, like me, again, were raised in that way, have this kind of more ambitious demeanor, there is a way that you can kind of quote, have it all, but you're going to have to be very aware. You're going to have to be very aware of your state of being, how you are, and just really tune in. And the great thing is you have that motivation, you have that ability in you to do the research, to learn, and I think this version of it is possible. I think the outside career and the outside business is very challenging. And like I said, I think a detriment to many, many relationships. And I think the proof is in the divorce rate. So if I haven't wrapped it up solid enough, here we go. So my conclusion is that being a boss babe is really antithetical to being a supportive wifey. Ouch. It's even hard for me to say stuff like that, but really I think it's very true. Like I've said, even for me in this kind of semi-boss babe life, and we don't have kids at home, it's still very tough. And I have to like mentally, emotionally separate business from home and really make sure that I'm giving my husband what he needs. And that's sometime I'm going to talk about being of service, serving your husband and spouse, but husband in particular, that's not a 4-letter word. Okay. So hang in there. We're going to address that at some point too. That it's actually when you love someone with all your heart, serving them is a pleasure. I think of this, it's very easy to see in pets, for example. I think of my cat, and I just love it when I reach down to pet her and she reaches up with her own head, and it's almost like she's smiling. And then that you seeing that pleasure on them just makes you feel so good. And I think that's what gets lost in marriages, because there's so much stress outside that's pulling on the marriage. And so that's just a little illustration of why being of service is such a pleasure. Okay. So a few last words for those boss babe types. I don't think you need to feel ashamed. I think there's a lot of shame put on boss babes from both directions, from men who are like, get in your place, and women, like I said, in doing some research for this, also saying, oh, you're so ableist. You're that way because you were able to be that way and you lived in this environment. It's like, you get it from both ends, but you can be you, and also identify what is in your nature and how also you were nurtured, and also being aware of your environment, that to have a happy, healthy marriage, and especially a family, when you bring in kids, that is going to take time and attention from you. And that in the end, it's so worth it, to share your love and your attention in that way, that more fulfilling than any career can be. So when you put things in this order, and I do believe it is God, family, and then your husband and family, just to be specific, and then other things like business, it will align your energy to support your relationship, your primary relationship, first of all, and then also things fall in line better in life. And I think what is the crux of so many difficult relationships and divorces is that things get thrown out of order. And again, sharing from my experience, if you put it in this order, you can still be the ambitious person that you are. You can still have a successful marriage and a successful life, but it's just about making sure that things are in proper order. So I would love to hear from you all, guys and ladies. I'm sure you have a few things to say. And I hope my hubby chimes in on this chat as well. He usually listens to most of my podcasts. There's so many topics here. In the past, we would talk about all these topics ahead of time. But now he's hearing about them after I share them on a podcast. So our conversations afterwards are also very interesting. But I would love to hear from you all. Please like, subscribe, share with a friend you think who would be interested or benefit from this. And your likes, your comments, and subscribing really help the channel and also help me know what's resonating with you. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and take care.